Welcome to Programmable World, a podcast all about tech ventures, the stories behind them, and the wisdom gleaned from lessons learned. My name is Dan Ilett. I'm an ex-tech journalist, and today I help tech companies to go to market, raise their commercial value, and win more business. I've worked with some of the biggest brands in the world on storytelling, brand, launches, and sales, having launched a few of my own tech companies as well. I love hearing people's stories about how they contributed to their ventures and what they learned on the way. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a business leader, or interested in technology, Programmable World will ignite some sparks and get you thinking about what's possible. Hello and welcome to Programmable World. Today I'm joined by Todd Wade and Jason Hart, two very good friends and also experts in the cybersecurity industry. Welcome guys and thanks for coming.
Great. Nice to be here again.
Yeah, it's good you can make it. So let's have a chat, guys. I want to talk to you about some of the things that are happening in cybersecurity at the moment. And clearly, it's a hot industry. There are startups and scale-ups being bought and snapped up very, very quickly, very aggressively. There's a lot of investment in the space. One of the things, having covered this as a journalist many years ago, that hasn't really changed is that the cybersecurity industry always seems to be on the back foot and defending from a position instead of being proactive and actually getting on the front foot with things. How do you see the industry can be proactive when there are so many attacks coming at it?
Dan, I think you're on point there. And Todd, if you don't mind me kind of just jumping in a second. Biggest frustration I have to date, and Dan, we've spoken over the years kind of many times on different elements, is the world is spending more and more money on cybersecurity. All right. So coming up to 30 years in the industry now, we've gone from, trying to plead with the execs, board members to kind of provide a budget to actually spend on cybersecurity, to actually an infinite amount of money being spent on the industry and the sector now with a CAGR of God knows what over the next 10 years. But at the same time, we have this continual increase year on year with breaches. So it seems, and I'm going to be very pointed and direct here now, the more we spend, the more problems, more breaches are occurring. Now, I think what that is, and Todd, I'd like your view on this maybe and jump in, is actually the technology is there. So we have these scale-ups, we have the startups, great, new buzzwords, the new kind of magic wand to solve a problem. But actually, fundamentally, what businesses need to consider, and any business leaders listening today, is technology is one element. But what I would challenge every CXO listening today is, have they been able to get the effectiveness from the technology that they've got purchased, shelfware? Are they operationalizing cybersecurity? And my fundamental gut feel and what I'm seeing around the world is no. And that is the problem.
How about you, Todd? What are you seeing?
Like Jason, I've seen a lot of different organizations, a lot of different setups. People still cannot get the basics right. No matter how good your security tools are, if you have thousands and thousands of vulnerabilities on your OSs, on your different systems, you are setting up with one hand tied behind your back. If you don't have the basic authentication mechanisms, set up, it just isn't going to really make much of a difference. And over again, here you have this same problem, and these companies, they're faced with really interesting, really hard dilemmas, because sometimes these systems are so old that to upgrade them is more expensive than it's worth. So they make some decisions sometimes just to keep running with the older systems that are just hugely vulnerable for the organizations. And that's just one example, but there's many, many cases of that.
There's a concept, I think I initially heard about it, called Jevons paradox, which is it's an efficiency or productivity paradox, effectively, someone came up with a similar paradox in the 70s or the 80s when people started to buy technology, and they noticed that instead of productivity going up, there hits a point where the more technology you buy, the less productive you actually become in the thing you were originally trying to do, or the less efficient you become in the thing you were trying to do. And you cause all kinds of there are lots more problems that occur from buying technology. So to your point, Jason, there's a productivity issue around not just technology, but in a cybersecurity alone, because you're buying stuff, I guess. It sounds like you're sort of switching 20% of the things on, but actually there's a lot more stuff that it could be doing for you.
Totally, 100% agree, Dan. And just going back to kind of Todd's point on vulnerabilities, there is a misconception that an organization purchase tooling, vulnerability tooling, to solve the problems. But what I'm seeing, Dan, is a fundamental breakdown in the operating model. So we've got a security team in an organization now. They've got this amazing tooling. The tooling is identifying the problems, the risks, the vulnerabilities, the threats. However, in order for those problems to be remediated, it's reliant on a different business function. Now, that other business function hasn't been made accountable or have been made aware that they're responsible to do that. So basically what you end up is these silos of islands, security team going problem, 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 engineering development or whoever, I need you to resolve this. They're going, well, I've got my day-to-day job. And you go into this kind of wheel of hurt. So unless that operating model is set up, it's KPI'd, and I'm really going to go back to old school basic stuff here. A RACI is formally communicated across an organization. Nothing's going to get done.
What's a RACI?
Okay, so a RACI clearly defines who's responsible, who's accountable, who's informed, okay? So if we go back to the days of ITIL, ITIL processes, if we take the world of IT technology, it's taken the world 100 years most probably to actually get some simple processes, efficiencies going. Cybersecurity is really, really freaking new, yeah? But the difference with cybersecurity, it touches every freaking business function. So unless every business function is clearly aware of what they're accountable for and responsible for, and if we go back to kind of any CXOs listening, got OKRs that track against cyber, nothing's going to happen.
So Todd, here's a question for you, talking about vulnerabilities. I mean, the cyber's always been sold on the back of fear, uncertainty, and doubt as one thing that's driven a lot of sales, put it that way, coming as the cynic to the industry. At the moment, there appears to be more fear, uncertainty, and doubt than we've seen for a while, given all the instability, and the geopolitical issues that are occurring right now. I won't go into them here. But fundamentally, are you seeing more vulnerabilities occurring at the moment than you were, say, 18 months ago? Or is it a pretty linear thing?
It's just ongoing. It's an ongoing problem.
I mean, have you seen it spike is really what I'm asking.
I think probably our detection capabilities are better to detect them. And new vulnerabilities are appearing. There's just an example of open source technologies are becoming more apparent that there are serious vulnerabilities in open source that really weren't properly appreciated years ago, but now are coming to the forefront. Hey, we have a problem here, and this needs to be addressed. And if you want to really baffle yourself, just go down to a security conference show, walk down the aisles, and most people are going to be like, what the hell? Every solution out there solves my problem. I'm done. So this is overload. And what I'm getting to this is many times companies aren't focusing on the right risk. And if you understand which risk would allow you to focus on the key risk and spend the budget on those key risks that you're looking to address. And that's something that companies really struggle to understand.
Got it.
Dan, just picking up on your point to Todd there, I think there are more 0 days vulnerabilities being identified. 0 day vulnerabilities more and more are being discovered, okay, on a weekly, monthly, daily basis. And the reason for that is, if I look at my day job and what we do, vendors and the security vendors are getting very good at discovering them. So actually, we are putting this downward pressure on organization to say, never 0 day, never 0 day, never 0 day. So there's an argument that the industry is kind of an element of cause of this as well, in a good way. But what that's doing, that's putting more downward pressure and going, yet another one, yet another one, yet another one. We got to react. And then bringing that back to Todd's additional point, businesses and any leaders or CXOs listening today is you have to move away from, right, I'm going to have to fix everything in the organization from a security vulnerability perspective, because that's going to be impossible. It's understanding what is the impact, what business function in the event of that poo moment it's breached. What's the impact? So it's all about contextual, and I can start talking for hours on how, from a P&L perspective, if Dan, me, and you and Todd were going to go into a board meeting tomorrow and say EBITDA is going to drop next quarter, immediately that board would know what levers to adjust to make EBITDA profitable again. And we need to approach cybersecurity like that. What risks are we going to mitigate? Which are we going to accept? What are we going to transfer? And we haven't quite got there from a business perspective yet.
The group that I'm part of, that effectively it's kind of a community of people who serve the high net worth industry. And one of the things that I've noticed and that's been talked about, in fact, is that they are more security and cybersecurity people coming into that network because of the threat that affects those guys, right? One of those threats, I guess this applies to the CXOs and anybody in corporate positions who are reasonably well paid. They're actually a threat. There is a threat to those people themselves. Todd, you've talked a bit about some of the threats to people and how ransoms are now occurring. Do you want to talk a bit about that and just explain some of the things you see?
I'm seeing when it comes to especially high net worth individuals, it's a human factor. We're not talking technical controls here that are being compromised. We're talking people themselves are being compromised through a range of methods. And these range of methods are very hard to defend against. It's ironic that usually in the organizations, some of your worst cyber posture individuals are your exec team. It's a real disconnect there. Many times people are more at risk, have a confidence level, or they feel like it's never going to happen to them, and they get caught out easier because of this. And they have more to lose personally and business-wise.
Yeah, they absolutely do. What sort of things have you seen? We talked offline about some of these deep fake ransom attacks. Do you want to explain a bit about them?
Sure. People are getting threats all the time where their images now are being put on, falsely accused. Here's a business threat for you. You can basically pretend to, or literally AI generate any kind of deep fake and make anyone do anything you want that will embarrass them. And the reputation damage to this sometimes is enough to blackmail the executive, because it's the reputation damage oftentimes that they don't want out there and they can't take back. And threat actors are starting to exploit this and can exploit this. Numerous examples, and this is only going to get worse and worse. I think everyone would agree we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg with what's around the corner.
For example, what kind of deep fake things can happen or have you heard about?
You could say sexual acts. You could say taking a bribe as an example. Anything you could think of that would embarrass the executive, this is fair game. Absolutely fair game.
You also mentioned one about, getting a phone call. Your wife gets a phone call. It looks like it's from you and it sounds like it's from you, but it's not you, saying you've been kidnapped. Can you talk about that?
The FBI put out an alert last year on the virtual kidnappings. Now, virtual kidnappings are criminal gangs in Mexico are pretending to be, basically, you get a call one morning at 8 a.m. and it's from your mother's phone because they spoof the phone number. Okay. It's not really your mother's phone, but to you, it looks like your mother's phone. So you don't know. You answer the phone and there's a lady tied up or suffering or screaming or whatever it might be, puts you in a distressful situation to then blackmail you money, say extort money from you. If you don't pay this ransom right away, we're going to do something awful to your parents, and then send you gruesome pictures of what they're going to do to your mom at 8 a.m. in the morning on Sunday morning. It's really awful. And it's happening all across the U.S. It's only a matter of time for this kind of stuff hits here. Again, just shows there's no limit to the kind of depravity some of these cyber criminals will use.
So, again, go back to this question of, we're always on the back foot. It's all very well knowing about it, but how do you stop this kind of thing happening?
This is the magical question. I have not come across a security solution that has an answer to this. This is a psychological impact. This is psychological. It is every time you find a new communication channel and you put a defense against it, they're already onto another communication channel. And the question is, how do you prepare people so no matter how you get communicated, you're prepared for some of the tactics they might use, the emotional drivers to get you in an emotional state. There is not a tool that I've seen that is an answer to this. Is bits and pieces here and there that might accomplish it. But when you get attacked by a phone call or in the heat of the moment and it hits you, and then the psychological, like I said, they want to get you in an emotional state. Okay. In that 2 or 3 minutes, they have an emotional state. Then they launch in a range of persuasion techniques, and it is instant. And how do you prepare someone for that? Especially, your mother, your father, or your family. It's a tough one. And again, there are lots of hard problems in security that have not been solved. This is one of those hard problems.
Got it. Jason, what's the biggest threat you're seeing at the moment?
Oh, crikey, where do I start?
What about GPT? Has GPT been misused much yet?
No, GPT is fantastic. Yeah, for me, it's an enabler. Yeah, it's just an evolution of kind of our lives. Yeah.
But it's only a matter of time before someone does something with it. They already have probably.
Yeah, already have. Yeah. So like any technology, there's always going to be people wanting to find a way of exploiting it or using it in a different way. So, using it to create ransomware, use it as part of a phishing attack, etc., using it to create phishing emails, which, are spelt correctly and more kind of, so 100%, but it's kind of, if I'm honest, Dan, so what, it's about actually the prevention. Okay. It's going to be used as an enabler. It's going to be used as yet another tool, like all the other arsenals of tools out there. It's not actually, yes, there's lots of noise around it. I think there's more positives than negatives around it. But for me, my biggest bugbear is, as you know, I can go very deep in the technology. For me, the technology is there. It's actually the problem I'm seeing. It doesn't matter where I go in the world. Doesn't matter what size of organization I speak to, is the effectiveness. Okay. We're spending huge amounts of money on the industry, okay, in cybersecurity, but I challenge anyone, are they actually getting the effectiveness? Because once we start tracking the effectiveness and the outcomes of the technology or the processes that have been implemented, this is how this problem just becomes the norm.
Some people are now looking, quantum computing is becoming an industry. It has been an industry for some time, but it's becoming a bigger topic. Alongside that, you have people now talking quantum encryption, quantum security, quantum attacks, quantum AI, all sorts of things that just take the compute conversation to another level. How much of a reality is quantum attacks and quantum encryption breaking, all this sort of stuff? Where are we at with that?
As you know, with one of my previous roles, I was CTO of one of the largest encryption companies in the world. One of my hobbies was cryptography, but quantum.
But that was a fun weekend.
Yeah, lots of noise, always has been, but let's just step back, okay? If you look at the world where they consume most of their email, most of their apps, host most of the web servers, okay? You've got the big 4 or 5. You've got Google, you've got Amazon, you've got Azure, etc. You've got Apple, okay? Now, they're going to solve the problem, okay? The quantum element, the key encryption, will be dealt with by them. So most normal organizations, okay, in the UK, it will not be an issue whatsoever. It's that simple. Okay. Now, where it becomes a problem is for infrastructure and legacy systems within banking environments, okay? So to be able to switch out the level of encryption or the type of encryption within legacy applications becomes a problem. But the world's not going to end. The problem for most organizations listening today, it's irrelevant.
Hey, Jason, on that topic, is there a 0-day threat with quantum then?
0-day threat with quantum. So if we step back, okay, NIST are still looking to standardize on the appropriate encryption level. Okay?
So just for listeners, and what is a 0-day threat, by the way?
Okay, great point. So 0-day threat or risk is a way that an attacker can exploit something because it's vulnerable. And it's vulnerable because there's no remediation on preventing that attack or that vulnerability occurring. So that's a 0-day. So i.e. Todd announces a 0-day and potentially a threat actor could exploit that because there's no means of mitigating that attack.
Okay. So in terms of quantum, what's your opinion on quantum, Todd?
It's going to come here at some stage, but I think it's a lot of more hype than it is right now. So people are hyping it up as more of a security threat than it poses at the moment. Will it in the future? I'm sure at some stage we'll reach that, but it's not going to be surprising to anyone anytime soon. And I don't think anyone needs to buy any quantum security solutions now. Because again, that would be addressing a threat, that's a risk that is a very low risk at the moment.
Yeah. And to your point there, Todd, quantum is about encryption. Encryption is embedded and done organically within your browser, within the application. All right. So for any audience talking today, unless they're configuring or developing applications, which is relying on a level of encryption baked within the application development lifecycle, then it's irrelevant.
So let's talk a bit about you guys for a second. So, you guys are on the speaker circuit this year. I know, Todd, you recently released a book. What's kind of happening with your own careers right now? Todd, where are you at this year? What's the plan?
Things are really busy. I'm working in private equity at the moment, working with one of the large groups here with a series of projects with them. That's going quite good. A lot of challenges in private equity at the moment, I think, as Jason probably is well aware. So definitely of interest. My book has been really well received. Got a lot of great feedback, and a lot of people it's really helping non-technical users, executives, understand the threats better. Now, so that's what it was for. It was written for, not for the cyber community, but for executives to really understand, get a better handle on how they can protect themselves and their families. I really believe if you teach executives how to protect themselves and their families, those same habits carry over to the workplace. It's a mindset. And this is, my attempt to kind of bridge that gap.
That's great, Todd. How about you, Jay?
Yeah, congrats, Todd, as well. Awesome work on the book. Very busy year ahead, Dan. Lots going on the speaker circuit around the world. As you're aware, recently took up the role as CTO for Rapid7. So that's kind of keeping me very busy. Also kind of supporting a number of organizations as a NED as well. So kind of more and more of the same. And really, for me, still love the tech, but because of some of my previous PE work, I'm loving the operational element of it, actually looking at the operating models of organizations and how that links and ties into cyber, if any, in most cases. So for me, I'm just getting a huge buzz out of that at the moment and really enjoying it.
We've got some more events coming this year. In fact, we've got a bigger events calendar this year for the CPU User Forum. I think we've got breakfasts, dinners, and drinks events scattered through the year. So you guys will have to come and do another talk if you're up for it.
All right.
Yeah, it should be good to have you guys along.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right. That's brilliant, guys. Well, look, anything else you want to add, or should we finish there?
Well, I think we could talk for hours, really. If you want.
This is just so easy. Yeah, it's so natural.
That's good. Right.
I'll leave just one thought on my side, and I think it's helpful for executives to think about. If you frame it as, I'm going to get hacked anyway, all right? And then it kind of helps you in the mindset of what could I do to limit the impact of that hack? In other words, cyber resilience. Think about it like that. I think it helps you in the mindset because none of us are going to prevent everything. Even in, there's not business, you're going to have to come through. So one of the things I'm thinking about a lot is how resilient are we to withstand the attack? And on the individual side, how resilient are they withstand if they do get hacked, compromised? So something to think about.
Yeah, and Todd, I wouldn't mind building on that as well. In addition to that, also, when you're challenging your IT team or if you have a security function, challenge them on, okay, have we considered if we were breached based on business function? Because what I'm seeing around the world is organizations are spraying security just all over the organization. That level of security is equal across the organization. However, it's not proportionate to the impact to what Todd was saying. So actually think about that poo moment. If you were told a particular business function was compromised, what would that impact be? Then I challenge you to go to your other stakeholders and ask them the same question. And I categorically tell you, they will tell you a different business function. Immediately, alarm bells calling, you need to action it.
Do you think anybody says poo when they get hacked?
Yeah. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on here, Dan, but I can quite tell you some of the words I've heard.
I'm sure. Lads, listen, thank you. That was awesome. I'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Programmable World podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe. To find out more about the podcast, our guests and the topics we cover, head over to programmable.world to subscribe to our newsletter or have a look at our company at tollejo.com. That's TOLLEJO.com. Have a good day.